Hello again, I'm Justin.
And I'm Paige.
And we are
Being Adventurous.
So for this episode, what we want to do is kind of share our thoughts on a recent test drive we did for the BMWIX. So if you recall correctly, on our one of our November episodes, when we went to the Electrify Expo in Austin, we checked out the BMWIX. It wasn't available for test drive, but we were able to get in there and touch, feel, all that kind of stuff. And we definitely shared our thoughts from that experience. And if you haven't checked it out yet, we'll make sure we put the link in the description so you can check it out to get those thoughts. But we're going to kind of give you fresh thoughts based on the test drive, because the test drive version wasn't as well appointed as the one that was in Austin, but that's okay. Because at least it's something that we could drive, we can get a feel for it, and kind of take a look at it from that perspective. So with that being said, I'll let Paige start us off with some of her thoughts.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess my first thought was I had no idea what we were doing. You kind of surprised me with it, and you wouldn't tell me where we were going, and it was just like one of those, is it bigger than a bread box? Is it going to be with people I've never met before? You know, I was getting a little bit worried about what he was trying to get me into on a Saturday afternoon. But he finally told me on the way over there. I think I did at one point guess if it was going to be a test drive of something. And I know we had recently seen a friend of ours, and they were talking about some different cars that they were looking forward to test driving.
And one of them was the iX.
Yeah. So it was fresh in our mind, and Justin had gotten the lead on being able to actually go and test drive one, because there was a dealership pretty local to us that had a model, and they said they were going to have it. They couldn't sell it until I think June.
Something like that. I think they're saying all the BMW dealers that have them are not able to sell them for a certain period of time, which we were saying that's a good thing, because it's better for people to be able to experience the model, the test drive, versus the dealer immediately selling it, and then the users not being able to actually test drive the vehicle that they're potentially spending, many thousands of dollars on. So
so right off the bat, fresh in my mind, or back in my memory, I guess is what I would say, is thinking back to that Electrify Expo and the thoughts that we had originally when we looked at it was just the luxury interior feel of it. Now, the model that we test drove wasn't identical to the one that they had at the show. It didn't have the premium interior upgrade. But even as from a base interior perspective, it was still, I would say, higher than the typical premium interiors that you see nowadays. So it certainly still had some level of luxury even with the base model. Yeah, and I was really impressed by the display screen on the model. It reminded me a lot of what Kia has done, where it's got the two screens that kind of go from the driver's side to curve a little bit around. I was really impressed with that. I liked the diamond pattern on the seating, on the seats. I thought that was just beautiful. And of course, the first thing you see when the car is being driven out for you to test drive it is just the front and the grille, and it's just beautiful. It's really stylish, and it really kind of gives you that wow factor, I think.
I know one thing I noticed when it was driving out was that it's certainly bigger than our Volvo, because our Volvo is classified as a subcompact SUV, and this certainly seems to be an SUV from a size perspective. So that was nice, having the extra space, and that kind of translated into, when we got in the car, we noticed how there was just so much viewing area out the front.
Yeah, it was really, there was so much space on the dashboard. It just, I mean, I was just like, I can't touch it. It did seem like there was a lot of headroom. And it does have the panoramic roof, and there's a button that you can press to make it more opaque. So it doesn't have the liner that comes across, but you just press the button and it kind of gives you a little bit more shade in different levels, which was really interesting. I enjoyed that. I felt like I kind of looked through the control menu. It seemed like everything was really easy to use.
A lot of software. It's very software techy, similar to the Kia. There's a lot of options from a software perspective. One of the cool things that I did like hearing the answer to was when we asked about Android Auto, was it wired or wireless, and they confirmed that for both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay both were wireless.
Yeah.
So that was a nice bonus.
Yes. I know that was something that, I think, I'm not sure what else I would say. It's longer range than our current vehicles are.
Well, the weird thing is so for the default 20-inch tires, the range on these models, because they're all-wheel drive, is 324 miles. And typically when you go up in tire size, your range goes down. So when you get to 21-inch, your range goes down to 308. But when you go to 22-inch, your range goes back up to 315 miles. So I thought that was kind of nice. Mm-hmm. And that's certainly where we would gravitate towards too, because the larger tires typically look better on a vehicle. So we're definitely going to go down that route. And then we also were talking about the charge times, because of course, this being a larger vehicle, it's going to have a bigger battery. So it does have a bigger battery. I think it's around 100 kilowatts versus 77 or 78 on the Kia, as an example, and something similar on the Volvo, if I recall correctly. So from a charge time perspective, on the Kia, on the EV6, it does 62 miles in 5 minutes. On the BMW iX, it does 90 miles in 10 minutes. So it's about 33% difference in speed. But the good thing is, well, one, you're never guaranteed top charging speed when you go to Electrify America, because you never know if the 300 kilowatt charging station is even working, let alone available. So in the BMW, I think has a maximum charge rate of 190 or 200 kilowatts, versus on the Kia, I think it tops out at about 243, I think we've seen on it. So of course they're always going to have varying charge times depending on outdoor temperature and battery levels and things like that. So that's not a bad trade-off. It's still a really good charge speed, and especially if you couple in that you're getting a significant advantage in range. Certainly on paper you're getting at least another 60 miles. That does help with the increase in charge time. What'll be an interesting exercise that I think we'll have to maybe sit down and figure out how to calculate. But it would be interesting to think of different places that from a long distance perspective that we would like to go, and then map out the stops from Electrify America perspective for each vehicle, just to see if it actually makes a difference as far as where we have to charge, let alone how long we charge at each of the stops, just to get that type of comparison. But I think that's a fine trade-off to make, having that really a nice extra chunk of range for a little bit of sacrifice for charging time, because at the end of the day when we charge, we plan on using that stop to do other things anyway. So I think that might be a good trade-off.
The door handles, I think that's one thing we mentioned originally in our video, was it's like you take your hand and you stick it under it and you push it. Now, I have to say, when I got in the car, I sat down, I shut the door, and I was like, oh, I don't feel like I shut the door all the way or something. And then I just kind of turned and I was looking at the door and I could not figure out how to open the door. So the salesperson had to show me there's just a little button that looks like a car door, and you push that button and it opens the door.
Shout out to Casey from BMW Plano. One of the things that I think you made the comment of is one of the things that we noticed from a pricing perspective is, and Paige used a term that was very Honda-like, in that there's almost everything is an upgrade, and I imagine BMW does that because they want to try to hit a low entry price point, and then allow people to customize it to their liking. So I kind of see both sides to that. I mean, for us, we typically go fully loaded or pretty much near fully loaded. So it's just kind of a painful process, add. But I could certainly see where having these type of options allows someone from an EV perspective, especially, to really customize it to what their priorities are versus not, to allow them to get into a luxury vehicle at a lower price point that they might not otherwise be able to get into. So I can definitely see the benefit of that. Yeah. And even on top of that is, if you end up doing a fully loaded iX, and these are the xDrive 50 because the xDrive 40s are not coming to North America. From a price perspective, you're actually getting within spitting distance of the M60 version, which is coming out for 2023, which is essentially the performance version, because for the M60, all these features are included. They're standard. But I think if you do the math, you're within a handful of thousands of dollars to get the performance version, sacrificing range, of course, but that adds another level of options for people who want to go the luxury route and are typically getting all the features anyway. To make the trade-off, do you want to sacrifice a little bit of range, or a lot of range depending on how you look at it, for that performance? And then also, are you willing to wait until 2023 versus, I think our order time is it's a 6-month queue or less, especially since there's cars being built and sent over, and as they come across, hopefully we'll get some insight as to what those configurations are like. So if we can find something that is similar or equal to what we have on order, then that might be something that we can pull the trigger on sooner versus later.
Yeah.
So that's a nice option.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
trunk was big.
Trunk was big. The ride was smooth. One thing we still need to get a better handle on is the acceleration, because it's not scientific. We kind of felt that it wasn't quite as fast as our Volvo and EV6, but even though on paper they're rated very, very close, right, almost identical. So we don't know if it was just, we're wrong on how we felt the acceleration, or maybe it needed to be in a sport mode and we just didn't have it in sport mode. It's really hard to tell. So I'm not too worried about that, because at the end of the day they're all rated very similar on paper, so I can't imagine it being too far off from that anyway. Yeah. And if we really wanted performance, we would just go for the M60 version. So I think that won't come into play.
And I think one thing that was good to hear from the salesperson was that there was a lot of people coming in to test drive them, about 20 to 25 per day. That as soon as somebody got out of it, they immediately put it on the charger so that they would have it ready for the next person.
Well, if they're lucky,
yeah.
Because when we got done, the other people were ready. They were already checking out as we're getting out of the car. They're peeking their head in, and then they end up just getting in and driving off. So that's how quick those turnarounds are.
Yeah.
So that's good to see.
So we always are excited when somebody's trying to make that decision to go EVs. Yeah, of course.
I didn't hear any road noise issues, so I think that seemed to be better than both of our current cars, which makes sense. You would assume that as you go up in levels and whatnot, the noise would go down, because there'd be a lot more put into reducing that. And then I
thought the seats were really comfortable.
The seats are fantastic, and we remember sitting in those upgraded seats, and they're just great to sit in, for sure. So I'm definitely looking forward to those. But I was going to talk about two of the features that we chose not to include.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they're both standard in the M60. But so one is it's called active steering, and that's where the rear axle turns along with the front axle. So I guess that's what people, I think, will refer to in other vehicles like spider walking or whatever, because they're both turned to the same direction. We chose not to go that route, not because it was an extra cost, which it is, but it didn't really seem like a huge benefit to us. I don't think it's something we would really notice, and we didn't want to sacrifice some of the potential rear tire wear.
She said you would have to get your rear tires replaced more frequently.
Be aware of that in case. So I really wasn't worried about that. And the other thing was the advanced sound option. So the default
there's
one...
another thing too. There's 3 things.
Okay. So the default is a 16-speaker Harman Kardon setup, and we're not audiophiles. That'll be perfectly fine for us. But they do have this 30-speaker Bowers & Wilkins Diamond surround sound system as an upgrade. And it's reasonably priced upgrade because it adds a lot of features. But again, for us, we're not audiophiles. But I tell you, the more I read up on it, I'm like, oh, it's still not too late for us to add it to the build. I'm so tempted to add that to the build. So we'll see if I end up changing my mind.
I mean,
but it is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like a 4D experience.
So you get the vibration in the seat, and you get more speakers, including right behind the head and stuff. So and coming down, it's interesting. And
I thought the upgraded heating,
the radiant heating,
yes, it's very interesting.
Awesome.
Like the up by your knees, the door side, like for the right side by your door, the middle, interior.
Right. So it's not just the standard blowers on the front coming at you. It's all radiating from all around. So it gives you I can imagine a much more even heating perspective. And it might actually end up being more energy efficient as well.
Sure.
Because you could probably better tune the temperature because that you're feeling all around versus, having it sporadic from a certain direction and you're not getting warm enough.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that.
The other thing that we chose not to was this trim that you could get like right along the window edge.
Along the windowsill and the mirror. It's a titanium
and I think
trim.
it was on the doors.
Well, on top of on the door trim.
And the door handles too.
Perhaps, yeah. And well, I think we didn't choose it because it doesn't match the color. Although I guess I can always change the color because it does look nice. It's a nice accent for some colors because I think it would really be sharp with the red.
But we don't want the red.
You don't want the red.
I don't want the red.
But since Paige did choose the color on the EV6.
Oh, excuse me. This is news.
This does allow that to be changed. We still have time to make changes. But again, it's very color dependent because it's a set color. So it only matches with a few colors. Red would just be one of the colors. I think it would look really sharp. But most other colors it would look nice. But it is a nice touch though. In the grand scheme of things, it is a nice touch.
It's $500.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing in the grand. It's nothing when you talk about financing this over how many months. It's nothing, but it didn't look good to me.
Yeah. So. But I mean, again, that goes through all my notes. Fantastic vehicle. I mean, we liked it so much we did put one on order. So we're definitely excited about that.
Okay, so what about the weird things?
So the one weird thing, and I'm glad Paige brought that up. So the one weird thing, and I didn't really think it was that weird.
I thought it was really
Paige thought it was weird. So because they have a seamless design on the doors and the windows, when you open it, it rolls the window down a little bit before it comes out. And same when you close it, it then if it's and then it just goes in and then rolls itself back up.
But it jiggles the window. When you close the door, it makes the window go like this. And I was like, this is some janky ass car. Somebody needs to come look at this. I mean, Justin was ready to go talk about ordering it. I'm like, no, you need to come over here and look at this first because I'm not going to let you buy this car.
But it's fine. It's a nice little feature. Same with the car when if you don't close it fully, it'll finish closing itself. So. To me, I like those touches because I understand the thought process behind it. So
you can just tell we've never had a fancy car.
That's very true. I mean, even if you think about it from the current EV6 and Volvo, those are both essentially certainly the Volvo's fancier than what we've had. The EV6 is very similar from an internal quality perspective to what the Focus the RS was. But we've certainly kind of upgraded our standards, which is fine. It's good to have one sedan, sporty crossover type vehicle in the EV6, and then one more luxury, longer range, and still fun and sporty.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to have that combined with it. So, were there any other weirdness that you wanted to call attention to?
No, that was it. That was like really weird to me. It was just, oh no, about this car.
Yeah. But and we want to shout out to Casey from BMW Plano. She was fantastic to work with, very informative. Walked us through the process. Again, we'll be keeping in touch with her for upcoming deliveries that they get in to see if something works for us. Otherwise, we're perfectly willing to wait the 6 months to get the exact version that we want. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
Until then, we'll definitely keep enjoying the Volvo, and we'll do more videos with the Volvo. If you have video suggestions that you want us to do with the Volvo, well, we have it. By all means, please make those suggestions below, and we'll get to work on those to make sure we get you as much Volvo information as we can before we upgrade to the BMW iX xDrive 50.
Wow.
Okay.
It's a mouthful.
Look at that. That's what I was going to say. Okay. I guess that'll be it for us today.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks as always.
I appreciate you being adventurous with us.
Remember to, and we always forget this, click click subscribe, tell all your friends. We really should just do that more often in the video. Eventually we'll learn how to do these properly.
Maybe.
Until then, take care and we'll see you next time.
Bye.